First page of your packet for today is just the straightforward problems that were on the video. And then after that, we're going to look at the ones that are less straightforward. They're called the ambiguous case. But we're going to start off with these ones that are kind of nice. So typically when you have a problem that's a triangle, you're going to look first to see what information they gave you, because that will tell you if it's a straightforward law of sines or if it's the ambiguous case, or it will tell you if you need law of cosines, which is what we're going to learn about tomorrow. Okay, so when I look at this, I can see they gave me an angle and then a side and then an angle. So if I look at them in order, it was angle, side, angle. And angle, side, angle is one of the types of problems that's law of sines, and it's one of the straightforward ones. Okay, so we need to solve the triangle, which means we have to find all the missing sides and all the missing angles. So what should we do first? Find a missing angle. What's the missing angle? So we're missing B. How do we find it?
You add the other two angles and subtract it from 180.
Okay, so if we add these together and subtract it from 180, what do we get for angle B? You should all have calculators. Huh? 98. All right, so angle B is 98. All right. And then it looks like we're missing side A and we're missing side C. So what do we do now to find side A and side C? So we have to have something to cross multiply before we can do that, though. We have to set up the law of sines. And with the law of sines, what do we always start with? We have to have a side and the angle that it goes with, right? So we have a 32 for the length of a side, and we have the angle of 98 degrees, and so that's one of the pieces of law of sines where we have both pieces of information, and so this is what we're going to start with. So 32 over sine of 98 equals, and now we can use the information for something that we want to solve. So we're going to say this equals what? Okay, so C over sine of 64. And then we can set up the same thing. So 32 over sine of 98 equals A over sine of 18. Okay. So now that we have the law of sines set up, how do we continue doing the problem? We cross multiply. So I'm going to get 32 times sine 64 equals C times sine 98. And how do I solve for C right there? Divide sine 98 over to the other side. Okay. What mode should our calculators be in if we're dealing with triangles? Degrees. So go ahead and hit the mode button and just make sure that you're in degrees. And then I'm going to type in 32 sine 64 divided by sine 98. And so C is approximately 29.044. It says to the nearest thousandth, which is 3. Yeah. So 29.044 kilometers. So we're putting our units of measurement on there. And then for the other one, we're going to cross multiply again. So I have 32 sine 18 equals A times sine of 98. And then the same thing to solve for A, I can just divide the sine 98 over to the other side. And so A is 9.986. All right, how do we feel about that process? So, in my opinion, maybe the hardest thing is to figure out what you're starting with. And you just have to make sure that you have the side and the angle that it's across from. So you have to have a fraction that has no variables in it to compare the other fraction with. Okay? So side and then the sine of the angle, and then you can have your variable with the angle that it corresponds to. Okay? So side lengths and the angles across from them should always correspond. The other thing that you'll notice about this is that the biggest angle is 98 degrees, and that's across from the longest side. The medium angle is 64 degrees, and that's across from the medium length side. And then the smallest angle is 18, and that's across from the smallest side. So if you check that every time you do the problems, you can kind of make sure that you're not accidentally, like if you had a typo and then write the answer down and now you got it wrong. It's kind of a nice way to be able to check your answers as you go, to make sure that the big goes with the big and the medium goes with medium. Okay, we're going to jump down to number 5 so that you guys can see what to do if they don't give you a picture. So with this one, it's triangle QRP. So when I do these, I always go alphabetically. You're not wrong if you don't label the triangle the same way as me. So what I would do is what comes first? PQR. So I would do P right here, and then Q, and then R. And it's okay that it's out of order from that. I just want you guys to know I always go alphabetical. So if you're going to compare your picture to my answer key, then just keep that in mind, okay, that I do it alphabetically. All right, so we have angle Q is 73 degrees. Angle R is 95 degrees, and then side Q is 23. So last time we had angle, side, angle. What do we have this time? Angle, angle, side. You guys see that? So it's still law of sines. It's still one of the easier ones, but it's a little bit different than the setup that we had for the last one. Okay. All right, so what could I find first? Yeah, the last degree measure, right? The last angle. So I'll go ahead and do 180 minus 73 minus 95, so 12. All right, and then how do I set up the law of sines? I know that this is side P, this is side R. How do I start it? Yeah, so we look for the angle that we have and the side that it corresponds to. So these are the only pieces of information we have where there's no variable for an angle and the side that's across from it. So I'm going to start off by saying 23 over sine of 73 equals P over sine 12. And then we're going to do the same thing again. 23 over sine of 73 equals R over sine 95. So I always start with the fraction that has all the information. And then I'm using it to find one variable. And then I start in the same place and I use it to find the other variable. So what do I do now? Cross multiply. So I'm going to have 23 times sine of 12 equals P times sine of 73. And what am I going to do to solve for P? Yeah, divide the sine 73 over. Okay, so that means that P is 5.000. Why didn't I just write 5? Because I rounded it. Yep. So this is me telling the person who's looking at my paper, I rounded it. It happened to be a 0.000, but that doesn't mean it was just the whole number 5. I definitely cut off some decimals to be able to write that down. Okay, what do I do for the other one? Cross multiply. So 23 sine 95 equals R times sine of 73. And then I'll do the same thing I did before. I'm going to divide that sine 73 over to the other side. So 23.959. And then if we look at this, is the biggest angle across from the biggest side? Yes, yeah, angle R was 95, the biggest side is 23.959. The medium angle is across from the medium side, the small angle is across from the small side. So it fits what we would have expected. All right, any questions about those ones? Okay, go ahead and continue working on the first page. So all of the first page 1 through 6 are like that. They're either angle, side, angle, or angle, angle, side.